We're here for three reasons today. For one thing, America is prone to forgetfulness. We have a short attention span after the media goes home. And when we have a national security problem, we tend to just kind of move on and not really know whether it was fixed or demand that it was fixed. Two, for economic health and strong relationships with the rest of the world, America depends on a steady transnational flow of people in and out of the country, coming and going with their ideas and their goods and services and business, etc. The need for corridors in and out of America has to be balanced, though, with the need for national security. And it's this constant kind of tension between our economic needs and our, need to be safe. Which leads us to the third reason why we're here today, which is that maybe we're too often tolerant of not finding that balance. Even more than 20 years after the 9/11 attacks sparked a whole of government reformation in the way it vets foreigners who use our admittance processes to enter. So short attention span, forgetfulness, human error, faulty processes, and the vast volumes of immigrant and non-immigrant visitors that we want still allows the entry of people who mean to do us harm, of foreign terrorists who are coming in hoping to kill us, but could have been found out, of human rights violators who are hoping to beat justice for their terrible atrocities and hide among us, but could have been detected, and of spies hoping to steal our brightest innovations, who defeat immigration security vetting systems, but who reasonably could have been found out ahead of time, and of violent criminals. And so despite these great strides that we've made since 9/11 to reform our systems, the Center for Immigration Studies publishes a database of immigration security vetting failures today. Its purpose is to force remembrance of these continuing instances so we don't forget. It's not as easy to forget if it's in public like this. And this is for far too many terrorists, spies, and other threats who come in from abroad using our systems and defeating our vetting processes that we put in place after 9/11. Another purpose of the database is to pinpoint where the failure was and which agency was responsible, and let that stand in front of the public to remind the nation's vetting system repairmen and women that even after the reporters go home, if any ever bothered to arrive in the first place, that these failures still must be discussed, debated, and solutions implemented, and then reported to us. 22 years have passed since the 9/11 attacks caused the U.S. national security apparatus and federal agencies responsible for providing this protection to reform the whole immigration security vetting system from top to bottom. Our security enterprise put its shoulder and back into this, and they made great progress over these years, and they did make it harder for terrorists to defraud the ways into America on bogus visas and lies. But we keep experiencing lapse after lapse that tell us this tough work is not complete. Let me give you an example from recently. Consider Malik Faisal Akram, who is in this database. It was Akram who, in December 2021, flew into America, and then the next month, January 2022, just a little more than a year ago, staged a kidnapping, hostage-taking attack on a Colleyville, Texas synagogue in the Dallas area during Friday night religious services. He pulled his gun, claimed he had an explosives belt, and then demanded that he would kill them unless the Biden government released an infamous convicted terrorist who was being held in a federal prison nearby in Fort Worth. After a long standoff, the hostages got away, and Malik Akram died when FBI agents stormed his redoubt. Akram had been on the British MI5 intelligence service radar for a long time as a problematic threat with a long history of sympathy for jihadist ideology. He'd openly praised the 9/11 attacks right after they happened. He served one spell behind bars when a British imam reported him for concerning behavior, disrupting Friday night prayer services. He was a frequent visitor to Pakistan with connections to the controversial Islamic sect Tablighi Jamaat. And after a 2012 conviction for theft, he reportedly conducted himself in an extreme manner while attending the jail's mosque. And one observer noted that he was obsessed with Islam. He was twice referred to the Counterterrorism Prevention Program, the last time as recently as 2019. So how could someone so known to British intelligence of having this kind of background just fly into America at will this late into the reforms after 9/11 and conduct an attack like this a week or two later? Well, the probable answers can be exhumed based on what's in the public record. Akram entered the U.S. in accordance with a fast-track visa waiver travel system between Great Britain and 40 countries in the United States. You can basically go on this thing. It's called the Electronic System for Travel Authorization. In a matter of minutes, put your name, enter your, maybe pay a fee. It's all online, and get a trip to the U.S. out of this without having to have a visa or go through that process. But this requires that travelers pass a criminal background check. And the Department of Homeland Security also conducts paperless electronic checks of those national security databases. But the British had taken Akram off their watch list. So there was nothing for the Americans to find if they ran his name and information through it. But Akram also had a disqualifying or at least delaying British criminal history. So this was really available for database checks. It should have flagged. We don't know really why his criminal history didn't flag. If it would have flagged, we would have probably found the extremism aspect of his background, but we did not. He had a lot of criminal history, theft, harassment, etc., but it just didn't happen. This was detectable criminal history, and he was able to breach 2 sets of borders, and the result was a terrifying 10-hour ordeal for innocent worshipers before he was neutralized, shall we say. So how often does this happen, and what should we do about it? Those questions are left unanswered. The DHS said that they were going to investigate, but we have heard nothing about what they did or didn't do since this terrible act happened. So now let me tell you a little bit about the database. It's seated right now at the moment at 47 instances of avoidable, unnecessary security vetting failure. The database reflects a more diverse range of human threat. It's not just about terrorism. If it impacts on our national interests or our national security or public safety, it goes into the database if we can. In it are spies, warlords, and to date, one child rapist. The center's intention is to grow this database. We'll add to it as necessary and when there's sufficient information to be able to do so. We are asking for public and government officials to contact us confidentially with information that may not be included in this database or new cases that we missed. There's a tab in the database where you can go in and contact us. Each failure case lays bare one or more likely repairable defects in the array of security screening policies and systems across government agencies, but 2 agencies that process the vast bulk of all non-immigrant and immigrant benefit applications are responsible for most of the failures that we have in this database. One was the Department of State's Office of Consular Affairs, responsible for various kinds of temporary visas that are supposed to be vetted overseas. We have Mr. Phil Linderman here to help us understand that, with long experience, 30 years in the State Department, to provide more information. The other is the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services for refugees overseas, citizenship, lawful permanent residency, and plenty of other duties as well. For that, we have Rob Law here, who has worked in USCIS during the last administration and is up to date on a lot of this. But other agencies bear responsibility, such as the Department of Defense, and in one case, the ICE Office of the Principal Legal Advisor, who is involved in asylum processes. The database is designed to be user-friendly and searchable. A cornerstone feature of the database when you go in there are analytical narratives that encapsulate the findings or likely fail points in the systems and processes. The database is searchable by name, nation, responsible agency, provides a sense of how long a suspect was in the country before detection, and that's as a way to frame how long the threat was able to persist before we discovered it and neutralized it. For transparency, visitors and researchers and anybody who goes on this thing will have access to all of the primary research materials that were used in the analyses. You'll find court records, you'll find media reports, government reports are all in there. We want this to be transparent. What visitors will find is how agencies failed in each case, what kind of visas or applications were typically involved, what species of criminality or threat was involved. And just to give you a couple of examples of what is in this is that we know that in the cases that we have so far, we will add to this, that 32 of the cases had at least one failure identified, avoidable failure in our opinion, 10 cases with at least 2 failures, and 5 cases in which there were 3 failures. And there's debate internally about whether some of them might have gone as high as 7 or 8 failures, but we're playing it conservative here. The most frequent visas or immigration benefit types where the failures occurred were lawful permanent residence applications, change of status, refugee applications, there were 22 of those, refugee applications, there were 19 of those, temporary visas of various types, 17 of those, and naturalized citizenship, 15 of those. There's supposed to be security vetting going on for all of these. All right. Of all the time for between entry and discovery, the average for all of them is about 5 years and 8 months. That's a little skewed by the war criminals who tended to be able to be inside the United States for really long times before they were finally outed and removed. Most of these are going to be terrorism-related cases. Those are an average of 5 years. Human rights cases, again, 19 years on average, and espionage-related cases, 3 years and 5 months on average. I'm not sure how my time is here, but I did want to,
quick.
Yeah, I did want to note one thing, that in recent years, especially during the Trump administration, we heard a lot about extreme vetting. I put air quotes around those. We don't refer to that as extreme vetting. But the administration, the Trump administration, did put in place by executive proclamation the National Vetting Center. That vetting center is still a going enterprise. The Biden administration came in, as we know, and reversed a great many of the prior administration's initiatives. But in this case, commendably, the administration maintained the National Vetting Center. It is still expanding. I report on what it's doing in the paper that's surrounding the database. And we can talk more about what they are doing, but But the work that they are doing, I think, is it all moves toward improvement of vetting by using by bringing together more classified database systems into one room and adding more kinds of visas to run checks through that, and more kinds of immigration benefits and names through that. And so with that, I'll, I guess, pass the dais.
Thank you, Todd. Just I failed to mention where you find the database. It's at cis.org, our homepage. You'll find it right there. And I don't know if you mentioned, Todd, these are all cases post-2008, which you picked because a lot of the vetting improvements after 9/11 were basically fully in place by then. So in other words, this isn't some concentration camp guard who got in 1951. These are more recent cases.
That's right. And also in 2007 and 8, there were certain additional reforms that were put in place. So it was selected anything from 2008 to present.